Well, howdy. You know now what I'm going to be talking about. Let's go back to the late 19th century. Oh, that thing is a little crooked, isn't it? Let me see if I can fix that. Oh, let's see. How's that? That's a little better. This selfie stick on the tripod is kind of wobbly. Anyway, late 19th century. The German army, Imperial German Army, had just decided on the 1888 commission rifle, a rifle designed by committee. It's not a very good rifle. I've got one over here. Mine's been sporterized, sort of, but it's... oh, you stay there and you come here. Okay. This is a commission rifle. It's not a very good rifle. It's been cut off. But it's a piece of junk. Anyway, at that time, Mauser really wanted some contracts. He had his basically his design experimental workshop working on different designs for bolt-action rifles. And the foreman of that workshop was a man by the name of Fidel Federley. And Fidel had two brothers, Joseph and Friedrich, who both worked in the shop. And Paul Mauser came around and says, "Hey guys, I don't want you working on any of these automatic pistol designs that you're into." See, at that time, most people were using either revolvers, which was what the military was really into. At the time, I think they were using the, it's not the gasser, but it was this ginormous revolver and black powder. And Mauser really wanted them focused on rifles. We got this Swedish deal for the 1896. Well, these guys are the ones who designed the 1896. And we can sell them a whole bunches of these, and it'll make us lots of money. And I'd like you to work on this 1898 design that we're going to try and sell them to the German army, which eventually they did. Well, meanwhile, in 1893, well, at that time, besides the revolvers, people were also into these ring-fired guns. Basically, they're a gun that has instead of having a single trigger, it has two. One's a ring, and you pull that ring, and it cocks and loads the pistol, and then you pull the trigger, bang, and then you push the ring forward, and it ejects the round, and then you pull it back again, and then bang again. It's a semi-automatic, sort of, or semi-manual, I don't know what you'd call it. Well, at that time, there were a few people who were interested in the automatic pistols. There was Mannlicher, there was Bergmann, there was Karl Krinko over in Austria, and there was a fellow over at Ludwig Loh, which later became DWM, and his name was Hugo Borchardt. And Borchardt came up with an automatic pistol, and others had come up with one before him, but his was the first commercially successful one. He made about 3,000 of these. They sold them. They all sold. And Ludwig Loh looked at it and said, you know, this really could use some improvements. But Hugo said, no, I made it perfect. You know, you get what you get. By that time, he was off working on the latest rage in Europe, which was gas lighting and different valves for gas lighting. Hugo was really into a lot of things. Well, meantime, back at the Mauser works, Fidel and Frederick and Joseph decided, well, you know, on our own time at home, we'll tinker with this this idea we have for a pistol. And at that time, like I said, Borchardt was selling, and he was trying to work out a deal with the Swiss, and well, the Ludwig Loh was. And they weren't interested. They were interested, but they wanted some changes in the design. So at that time, Ludwig Loh had a guy working on different cartridge designs, and his name was George Luger. And they turned to Luger and said, well, take this design of Borchardt's and fix it. And he did. He fixed it well. He fixed it so well that the Swiss bought it. It became the model 1900. Well, seeing all of this stuff going on, Paul Mauser went back to the design workshop and said, "Hey, you guys, did you ever work on more on that pistol design?" They said, "Yeah, we've been working on it at home." I said, "No, bring it back here into the shop, and I'll be in charge of the organization." When they finally got it completed, Paul Mauser said, "No, you guys didn't have anything to do with it." He took out a patent on it in his own name, and basically wiped them out of the story. Though others who knew the history sort of corrected that. If you're ever interested, this is a good book on the history of the broom handle, and it's still available. But if you're a collector, this is the best collector book. This one is from 1967, and back then, boy, you could get a lot of pistols, collectible pistols that you can't find anymore because they're now snapped up and in collections. But this is the definitive work on Mausers, on broom-handled Mausers and their and the various models, the various serial numbers, the obscure things that were done. But it is a superb book, in my opinion. Anyway, this is my broom-handled Mauser, and it's a pretty nice pistol. I don't have a Mauser stripper clip. This is actually the stripper clip of a Steyr Hahn, but it's holding some Mauser ammo. This is an 8-shot one. If I had a real Mauser one, it would be 10-shot. But these are all Mauser ammo. 7.62 by 25, I think. It's basically the same size as the Tokarev, but slightly less hot. Because the Tokarev was basically designed for a submachine gun, so they really bumped up the powder charge. Do not shoot a Tokarev round in a Mauser because it will blow the Mauser up. I know of cases where that happened in the Chinese civil wars. And by the way, they made a lot of copies of Mausers in the Chinese Civil War. And if interested, there's a book on it. I think that the commercial copy of this is a different color, but it's called Pistols of the Warlords, about the warlord period in Chinese history, written by Ian McCollum, of course. Excellent book. But among other things, they developed copies of every handgun you could imagine in Europe in the various arsenals in China, and one of them was the broom-handled Mauser, which they really liked. The reason is that it was impossible to import rifles into China because of Geneva Convention, but you could import pistols. So Mauser sold a whole bunch of these broom handles with this. This is the magazine for them. But the magazine also works as a shoulder stock. So with that, you could almost have a rifle, or at least a carbine. Anyway, an interesting pistol, an interesting story of development. Mauser went on and took it to every government that was out there saying, "Hey, would you like to buy this?" I think he even submitted one for the original trials here in America. But nobody bought it. But commercially, they sold millions. And there was even an automatic version of it. I think it was called a Schnellfeuer. And that was used a lot in World War I by the then stormtroopers. They would take it. It had a magazine on it, an extended magazine, and shot automatically, so like 900 rounds per second, or per minute, excuse me, and really fast rate of fire. And the Schnellfeuer was used extensively by their stormtroopers when they'd go down and raid a trench. Anyway, interesting pistol. I've shot it many times. I love it. It cost me a fortune. I mean, it's not my most expensive gun, but it's near my most expensive. It's one of the top 10. Well, it's near the top 5 actually. You know, actually my Luger costs just a scotch more. But anyway, and then I bought this and this separately. This is a reproduction holster, and I think this is a reproduction stock too. Putting a stock on a pistol is actually against the ATF's rules, except the Mauser seems to have a waiver so that they're not covered. Because, I mean, hell, the thing was made since 1896. It's not exactly a brand new pistol. Anyway, just something I'm into is weird old pistols. By the way, I'm feeling a little under the weather lately, and I may miss a lot of days of videos for a while because I just don't feel up to it. But anyway, it was called the System Mauser, or C96, which means construction Mauser. And it's a cool pistol, I think. Just my own observations on it. Happy trails.